Before we begin, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more bedtime stories. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from, and what time it is. And if there's a story you'd like to hear next, I'd love to know that too.
I didn't grow up around discount stores. My mom was the type who clipped coupons like it was religion, but for some reason, she never went into places like Dollar Den, our local version of Dollar Tree back then. Maybe she thought too many weird people hung around there, or maybe she assumed the quality would be trash. My dad used to joke, "Son, if it costs $1, expect it to break before you get home." When I moved out and got my own apartment in Clearwater Ridge, a small town outside Oklahoma City, I kind of carried that mindset with me. I stuck with the normal stores. Target, Walmart, Safeway. Comfort zones are funny like that. But the night everything happened. That night, I was dead tired, out of coffee, out of paper towels, and completely out of patience. I'd just finished a double shift at a warehouse loading dock, and my whole body felt like it was made of rusted hinges. That's what made me pull into the Dollar Den for the first time in my life. It was only 8:40 p.m., 20 minutes before close. I figured I'd run in, grab what I needed, maybe see if this place really saved money like people claimed. I swear to God. The moment I stepped inside, something felt off. Not dramatic horror movie off. More like I walked into someone else's living room by mistake off. The store was too quiet, too still, too empty. A thin layer of dust covered some of the top shelves, like nobody had touched certain areas in years, and the lighting, buzzing, flickering, giving the whole store that soft, sickly yellow tint, looking like someone attempted to fix a dying fluorescent tube and gave up halfway. I grabbed a basket and walked in anyway. Backstory moment. Why I even went out that night. Honestly, I shouldn't even have been out. Earlier that evening, the forklift at work malfunctioned and nearly crushed a coworker named Reese. We spent hours waiting for the safety rep, signing statements, retelling the same story 12 times. I skipped lunch. I skipped breaks. I worked until my vision felt blurry. When the shift finally ended, all I wanted was a shower and bed. But when I stepped into my apartment, a wave of burnt smell hit me. The upstairs neighbor had been frying something again, and my smoke detector had tripped in the afternoon. My place smelled like a mix of burnt oil and cheap oven cleaner. And then my phone vibrated. It was my landlord. Inspection tomorrow morning. Meaning, I needed to clean. Meaning, I needed paper towels, trash bags, cleaner, everything I had run out of. So, mentally exhausted and physically done, I grabbed my keys and walked out. That decision changed everything. The aisles were arranged strangely. Tall shelves in the back, shorter ones near the front, like someone had reorganized the whole store, but forgot to finish. I muttered to myself, where the hell do they keep the paper towels in this place? From the end of the aisle, an older guy stocking shelves glanced up. His name tag read, Bronson. "Paper towels," he said in a voice that sounded like gravel. "Aisle 6, they're on sale." "Thanks," I replied. "No problem, bud. Holler if you need anything." His friendliness immediately relaxed me. I figured the store was older, maybe understaffed. That's why everything felt a little weird. But then, just as I turned toward aisle 6, I noticed someone. A woman, maybe mid-40s, short, round face, long dark hair with heavy volume, like she'd teased it with a comb. She stood at the end of an aisle, facing away from me at first, but the second I walked in her direction, she turned her head toward me. Not fast, but slow, like she already sensed me coming. Our eyes met for half a second. Something about her smile made my stomach drop. It wasn't big or obvious. It was tiny, just a slight curl of the lip, but it felt intentional, like she knew something I didn't. I ignored it. People stare, whatever. I grabbed 2 rolls of paper towels and moved on. But the moment I stepped into the next aisle, she showed up again. I wasn't imagining it. I wasn't overthinking it. She wasn't browsing. She wasn't holding a basket. She wasn't looking at products. She was watching me. The hair on my arm stood up. I tried to shrug it off. People get weird sometimes, I whispered to myself. Maybe she's waiting for someone. I grabbed dish soap and started walking faster. Then came the first moment that made my skin crawl. I heard footsteps behind me. Not close, not fast, just right behind the aisle, matching my pace. I turned around. She was standing halfway down the aisle, not moving, not blinking, just staring dead at me. Can I help you?" I asked. She didn't respond. Her eyes shifted, tiny movement, down to my hands, then up to my face again. Then she quietly whispered, "You smell familiar." Goosebumps hit me instantly. "What?" But she didn't answer. She just stepped backward into the next aisle and disappeared. A cold sweat prickled down my neck. I wasn't scared yet, but something was wrong. Really wrong. I moved quickly to the front of the store. Bronson, the employee, was restocking near the counter. "Hey man," I said, trying to sound casual. "Is that woman, does she work here?" He looked confused. "What woman? Short, dark hair, kinda staring at people?" Bronson shook his head. "Nobody's here except me and the closing cashier. You might have seen a customer leave earlier." "No," I replied firmly. "She's definitely still here." Bronson gave a concerned nod like he believed me, but didn't want to freak me out. "I'll check the aisles in a bit," he said. "But don't worry, folks wander around here all the time." I tried to shake off the unease. Maybe she was harmless. Maybe she was high. Maybe she was lonely. Maybe she was one of those people who always seems like they're staring when they're not. I checked out quickly. The cashier, a skinny guy with reddish hair named Laird, scanned my things. "You find everything okay?" he asked, sounding bored. "Yeah," I replied, glancing around. "Just feels empty in here." Laird chuckled. "Trust me, man. You come during daytime, you'll wish it was empty." He bagged my stuff and handed it over. "You good?" he added when he saw how tense I looked. "Yeah, just tired." "Long day?" "Real long," he nodded. "Have a good night, man." "You too." I stepped outside. The parking lot was nearly empty. Just my car, one beat-up sedan, and Bronson's truck far in the back. The air felt colder than before, my breath visible, my heartbeat heavy. As I loaded my bags into my car, I couldn't shake the sensation that I was being watched again. But when I looked around, nobody was there. "Get a grip," I muttered. "You're tired, that's all." I got into the driver's seat and started the engine. That's when headlights appeared in my mirror. A car. The same beat-up sedan in the corner of the lot. It pulled out slowly, turned, and started heading toward me. I waited, expecting it to pass so I could back out. But it didn't pass. It came straight toward me. My stomach dropped. Oh, hell no. Before I could finish the thought, bam, the sedan rammed into the back of my car. Not super hard, not enough to injure me, but enough to shock me. What the? The sedan reversed, and that's when I saw her. The woman, behind the wheel, eyes wide, grinning now. A big, unnatural grin stretching across her face. "What the hell is wrong with you?" I cried, jumping out. The woman stared at me through the windshield. Then she whispered something. I couldn't hear it, but I could read her lips. "You smell familiar." Then she sped off, tires screeching, disappearing into the night with a sharp left turn out of the lot. I stood there shaking, half in shock, half in rage. Bronson burst out of the store. "Holy crap, kid, you all right?" I think so," I stammered. "She hit me. She deliberately hit me." "Did you get her plate?" he shouted. "No, she took off before I could..." He cursed under his breath. Damn it, that same woman's been seen around here for months. Folks talk about her. She's off. What do you mean, off? He looked around like he was afraid someone might hear him. People say she follows random customers, watches them, stands outside their cars. Some nights she just sits in the parking lot and stares at the building. Nobody knows who she is. Police said she doesn't have a valid license, doesn't own a car, nothing. They've been looking for her. My mouth went dry. She told me I smelled familiar, I whispered. Bronson's face paled, like that sentence triggered something in him. He placed a hand on my shoulder. Call the police, son, right now. I did. Cops came, took statements, took pictures. My bumper was smashed in. Insurance needed a full report. Later, they called me and told me the car was stolen. The woman wasn't the registered owner, and she wasn't listed anywhere in the system with a valid address. They never found her. To this day, I haven't stepped inside another dollar den, or Dollar Tree, or any dollar store. And sometimes, late at night, when I'm walking to my car after work, I swear I hear footsteps behind me. Soft, slow, familiar. And every now and then, I smell something. A faint scent of old perfume and cigarette smoke drifting through the air. And her whisper echoes in my head. You smell familiar. I never thought a minimum wage job would leave me with a story I'd still think about years later. Back then, I wasn't anyone special, just a 22-year-old trying to float through life without sinking. I had moved to Willow Bend, Ohio, a small, quiet town where nothing dramatic ever seemed to happen unless the high school football team lost a game. Rent was cheap, the bus routes were reliable, and the only place that called me back after an application was the Dollar Tree on Henderson Road. I'd worked worse jobs before, warehouse nights, dishwashing, everything short of selling plasma. But Dollar Tree felt easy by comparison. You stocked shelves, you greeted customers, you rang up gum and birthday cards and bleach, and you went home. That was it. At least, that's what I thought. My manager at the time was a 40-something guy named Rylan Brooke. Tall, shaved head, tired eyes, and a voice that always made it sound like he needed one more cup of coffee to function. He wasn't a bad guy, just overworked. He did the opening shifts. I usually worked evenings. And then there was Tessa Vaughn, my coworker most nights. She was 20, sarcastic, funny as hell, and the type of person who could talk you into laughing even when your life felt like one long car crash. But on Thursdays, Tessa didn't work at all. She had night classes, and this, of course, happened on a Thursday. It was a little after 4 p.m. when I clocked in. Sunset came early that time of year, and the sky outside already looked bruised and purple. Rylan was doing end-of-day paperwork when I walked to the counter. "Evening," he said without looking up. "What's up, boss man?" I replied, tapping my ID on the fingerprint scanner. He finally looked at me over the top of his glasses. "Just keep the front clean, and don't let teenagers steal the whole candy aisle again. We ain't a charity." I saluted him. "Yes, sir. 1 candy bar per thief, got it." He snorted. If only. We did our normal pre-closing walkthrough, straightening aisles, checking the restroom, making sure nobody was hiding in the freezer like last month when some idiot decided Dollar Tree was his personal nap pod. Everything was quiet. The store felt normal. He grabbed his jacket. "I'm heading out at 6. We close at 10. You good solo?" "Yeah," I said. I'd done it before. It was always boring, always uneventful. "Text me if anything gets weird," he added. "Last week some dude tried to fight Tessa over a broken picture frame." I laughed. "People will fight over anything if it's $1. He pointed at me. "That's what scares me." When he left, it was just me and the soft hum of the fluorescent lights. The evening crowd was the usual mix. Tired moms, teenagers looking for cheap snacks, old men buying crossword books. Normal, predictable, safe. Around 8:45, an older woman named Mrs. Donnelly came in. She was one of our regulars and always announced herself as if she were entering a sitcom set. "Hello," she called as she shuffled toward the cleaning aisle. "Evening, Mrs. D," I said. "You close soon?" she asked. "In a little over an hour." "Good. I just need dish soap. Don't fall asleep on me." "I make no promises." She cackled at that and disappeared around the corner. When she checked out, she gave me a soft smile and said, like she always did, "Stay safe, sweetheart." "You too," I replied. Those would be the last normal words I heard that night. By 9:15, the store was empty. That wasn't unusual. What was unusual was the silence. Not the regular kind, the heavy kind. The kind that feels like the whole building is holding its breath. It made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. I walked the aisles out of habit, dragging my feet slightly because honestly, I was tired. When I got back to the counter, I checked my phone. No texts, no calls, just a notification from a game I'd been playing. I opened it, turned the volume down low, and leaned on the counter. That's when it happened. Clack, like something hard hitting the floor. It came from aisle 4, craft supplies. I straightened, listening. Nothing else. Probably a glue bottle, I muttered. But when I looked again down the aisle from the counter, I couldn't see anything wrong. Still, the sound bothered me. It wasn't soft. It wasn't accidental. It was sharp, intentional, like someone knocked something off on purpose. Still, I forced myself back into my phone. People drop things all the time. 5 minutes later, thump. This time deeper, heavier, like something big falling from the top shelf. I set my phone down immediately. "Nope," I whispered. The words slipped out the way someone might talk to themselves before going into a basement in the dark. I stepped out from behind the counter, moving slowly. The Dollar Tree wasn't large. You could walk from the register to the back wall in maybe 30 seconds. But that night, every step felt like I was crossing a football field. "Aisle 6, I said under my breath. Sound came from aisle 6. I turned the corner, and there it was, a stack of plastic storage bins scattered across the floor. But here's what didn't make sense. They didn't fall from above. They were pulled forward, like someone grabbed the front one and yanked it. My stomach tightened. "Hello?" I called. "Store's closing soon. If you need anything, let me know." Total silence. I put the bins back, wiping my sweaty palms on my pants. "That's fine," I told myself. "Just gravity being an asshole." I didn't believe myself. I had almost made it back to the front when I heard the third noise. From the opposite side of the store. Tap, tap, thud. Slow, deliberate, like someone testing drawers, checking shelves, moving carefully. "Okay, no," I whispered louder this time. "No, no, no." I forced myself to project my voice. "Hey, store is closed in 30 minutes. You need to come to the front." Nothing. I moved toward the noise. My footsteps felt painfully loud on the old tile floor. When I reached the back corner, aisle 10, seasonal section, I saw a roll of wrapping paper on the floor. But not just one. 5 of them lined up perfectly in a row, like someone arranged them on the ground. I didn't do that. Nobody does that. My breathing sped up. I grabbed my phone from my pocket and held it like a lifeline. Not dialing yet, just keeping it ready. "Is someone messing with me?" I said out loud, mostly to calm myself. The store answered with silence. Just when I turned to head back, fast footsteps, human footsteps, not a walk, a run, running toward the front of the store. I froze. My heartbeat slammed in my chest. There was someone here, someone who had been avoiding me, hiding, moving between aisles while I moved. Someone who was stealthy enough to do it for nearly an hour. I forced myself to move, walking first, then faster, then almost jogging. When the front registers came into view, Everything in me went cold. There was a man, standing right behind register 2, my register, trying to pry it open. He didn't see me at first. He was hunched over, both hands gripping the drawer, jerking it violently. "Hey!" I shouted. He snapped his head up. The man looked to be in his 30s, wearing a dark hoodie, faded jeans, and gloves. His face was unshaven, eyes bloodshot, cheeks sunken, like someone who hadn't slept or eaten in days. He didn't look startled. He looked desperate. He pulled harder. "It's locked," I yelled. "It won't open unless I open it." He said nothing, but I saw his jaw tense. I took a step back. "I'm calling the cops," I said, pulling up the keypad on my phone. He dropped the drawer and lunged to the next register, also locked. "Dude, seriously," I yelled. "There's nothing in there for you. We put the money in the safe at 9:45. He didn't listen. He didn't even acknowledge me. He kept pulling, yanking, slamming his shoulder against the register like he thought he could break it off the counter. My hands shook as I hit 911. "Yeah, hi," I blurted the moment the operator answered. "I'm at the Dollar Tree on Henderson Road. There's a guy trying to break into the register. I'm by myself. Please send someone." The man heard me. He froze, turned, stared, not angry, not scared, just empty, emotionless. Then he bolted, straight out the automatic doors, which hissed open just in time for him to slip through. I ran to the front and slammed the manual lock. My breath was shaken out of me like I'd sprinted a mile. The operator stayed on the phone until police arrived 9 minutes later. 2 officers came inside, weapons holstered but ready. They checked the aisles, the back room, the bathroom, every corner. "Looks like he bailed fast," one said. "Did you see where he went?" the other asked me. I shook my head. "He ran left when he got outside." They nodded. "We'll canvass the area." They asked for a full statement. They were patient, calm, and professional. But the whole time, I couldn't shake the image of the man's face. How long had he been in the store? How many aisles had he watched me walk past? How close had he been without making a sound? The officers left. I stood alone again in that silent store, every aisle suddenly looking deeper and darker than before. I locked the door behind them and left everything exactly as it was. No facing shelves, no cleaning, no closing checklist. I didn't care. When I stepped outside, the cold night air hit me like a slap. I walked straight home without looking back. It wasn't the man trying to break in. It wasn't the footsteps or the shelves falling or the arranged wrapping paper. It was the fact that he had been in the store the whole time, moving quietly, tracking me, studying my patterns, waiting for the right moment. Dollar stores have no hiding spots, and yet he hid anyway. The next morning, Rylan asked me, "You good to work tonight?" I just shook my head. "Yeah," he sighed. "Didn't think you'd say yes." I quit 2 days later, and to this day, whenever I walk into a Dollar Tree, I still catch myself glancing down the aisles, listening for anything that sounds just slightly out of place. Because if a man can hide in a tiny store for an hour without being seen, what else could he do? This is something that happened back when I was 19. At that time, I still lived at home with my parents, and I worked part-time at the local Dollar Tree. I usually worked 2 to 4 nights a week, and most of those were closing shifts. Our store was generally pretty quiet, especially at night, and when we closed, there were usually only 1 or 2 employees working. One night, after a pretty average shift, I came home and grabbed something to eat before bed. I'd gotten off a little before closing, which was 10 p.m., and my coworker had locked up afterward. By the time I was sitting down with my food, it was around 10:30. Both my parents said goodnight and headed off to bed. I was eating some leftover pizza while sitting in the living room watching TV. I was tired and had planned to go to bed soon. Our living room sits at the front of the house, and there's a large window that looks out over the front yard and driveway. As I was sitting there, I suddenly saw headlights shine through the window, as if someone was turning into our driveway. I had no idea who it could be. My younger brother was 16 at the time and had his license, but he was home in his room playing video games. I turned around to look outside and saw a car slowly pulling into our driveway. It looked like a small, dark-colored sedan. The car stopped toward the back of the driveway, and then, surprisingly, the headlights turned off. That alone was a little creepy. I kept watching to see if anyone would get out, but for 2 or 3 minutes, the doors didn't open. I could tell the engine was still running, though. Then suddenly the car backed out of our driveway and drove off. I figured someone must have been lost or pulled in by mistake. Maybe they turned their lights off so they wouldn't shine them into the house. I eventually forgot about it and went back to my show. I got hooked on what I was watching, and the tiredness I'd felt earlier was gone. About an hour passed. It was close to midnight now. I was still on the couch when I heard a car outside again. I looked out the window, and the same car was pulling into our driveway. This time, it felt wrong. After the car stopped, the engine turned off completely. My heartbeat picked up as I listened. A moment later, I heard a car door open. I moved away from the couch and out of sight from the window so whoever it was couldn't see me. The first thing I did was quietly check that our front door was locked. It was. I stepped carefully to the window again, staying low so I wouldn't be seen. I saw a man walking up toward our front steps. He was a big guy with long, dark, curly hair that hung past his shoulders. I'd never seen him before. A cold, unsettled feeling hit me. He stepped onto the porch and immediately tried turning the doorknob. No knocking, no hesitation. That terrified me. I ran to my parents' room and knocked quickly. While I waited, I didn't hear any knocking at our door from the man, only the single attempt at opening it. After a moment, my dad got up and asked what was going on. I quickly explained that a strange man was trying to get into the house. My dad went to the living room to check, but by the time we got there, the man was gone. I looked through the window again, and his car was gone too. My dad checked around outside, but there was no sign of anyone. I didn't sleep well that night. I was scared he might come back. The next day, I had another shift at Dollar Tree, my usual 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. At first, the store was busy, and I was working with 2 other employees. But eventually, we were down to 1 employee. As the night went on, everything got quieter. By around 9 p.m., my coworker told me she had to leave. I'd be closing alone, since she had closed the night before. For the last hour, the store was mostly empty. I remember only 1 woman coming in to shop briefly before she left. Then around 9:30, I saw a man walk into the store. My jaw dropped. I recognized him immediately. The long, dark, curly hair, the bigger build. It was the same man who had come to my house the night before. I looked out through the front windows toward the parking lot. His car was parked right outside. It looked exactly like the sedan that had been in our driveway. My stomach dropped. I was alone in the store with him. I thought about calling my coworker, asking her to come back, but I convinced myself not to panic. Maybe it was a coincidence. Maybe he didn't know I worked here. Maybe he hadn't recognized me from the house. He walked around the aisles for a while, moving in and out of my line of sight. I couldn't tell where he was half the time. After a few minutes, he appeared at the front again. But he didn't buy anything. He just walked straight out the door and back to his car. I felt relieved, until I realized he didn't leave. He just sat in his car. Time kept passing. No more customers came. I knew I had to close the store and walk out there eventually. I quickly went through the closing routine, barely checking anything. I didn't care about straightening shelves. I just wanted to get out before something happened. But when I locked the doors and stepped outside, he was still sitting there. His car was the only one parked near mine. To get to my car, I'd have to walk right past him. I took a deep breath and started walking as casually as possible. I didn't make it more than 5 steps before I heard his car door open behind me. Panic hit instantly. I turned sharply and walked along the sidewalk instead of toward my car. There were a few stores connected to Dollar Tree, but the first couple were closed. I heard the man's footsteps behind me, steady, following. I didn't look back. There was a Target nearby, and it looked like it was still open. The parking lot had a decent number of cars. When I saw someone walking inside, I headed straight toward it. The man was still behind me, a good distance back, but definitely following. I walked into Target, and he followed me inside. I started weaving through aisles, pretending to browse, but really I was just trying to stay around other people. I grabbed my phone and texted my mom, telling her what was happening. She offered to come pick me up. I thought about trying to get to my car in that isolated part of the parking lot, but it didn't feel safe at all. I told her yes. While I waited, I kept walking through aisles. Every time I moved to a new spot, I could see him somewhere nearby, never too close, but always there. After what felt like forever, my mom texted me saying she was in the parking lot. I made my way toward the entrance. The man was still behind me, maybe 40 feet back. As soon as those automatic doors opened and I saw my mom's car, I bolted. I sprinted across the lot, jumped into the passenger seat, and slammed the door. My mom immediately started driving. We both watched through the windshield as the man walked out of Target. We drove off quickly. My car was still at Dollar Tree, but we were far enough from the man that we felt safe driving home. When we got there, I handed my keys to my dad, and he and my mom drove back to pick up my car. Thankfully, the man was gone by then. That night, I barely slept. I kept imagining headlights pulling into our driveway again. But he never came back. I never saw him again after that night. Looking back, I realized he might have seen me working the night he came to my house. Maybe I'd helped him without remembering it. Or maybe he watched me leave the store and followed me home. Whatever the reason, that realization still chills me. I was just lucky he didn't try anything worse. I never thought a $5 errand would change the way I looked at my hometown forever. Back when I was 17, I lived in a small rented duplex on the south end of Kenmore Ridge, Ohio. Not a dangerous neighborhood, not fancy either, just the kind of place where people cut their lawns on Saturdays and argued with raccoons on trash day. Inside that duplex lived me, my younger siblings, and my mom. Dad wasn't in the picture anymore, and Mom worked night shifts at a senior care center, so a lot of responsibility landed on me, whether I wanted it or not. My siblings, JC, Reed, and Tegan, could go through snacks like they were competing in some Olympic event. And anytime we ran out, I was the designated driver because I was the only one old enough to have a license. That night, everything felt normal. Too normal, maybe. The air outside was cold, still, and the kind of silent that made you feel like the world was holding its breath. Inside the house, though, chaos was alive and well. "Manda, we're out of popcorn again," Tegan yelled from the living room. "You guys just inhaled 3 bags, I called back. "Yeah, well, do your job and get more." Reed tossed a pillow at me. I rolled my eyes so hard they almost detached. "You guys better clean the kitchen while I'm gone." "Bet we won't." JC grinned from behind her phone. It was normal sibling banter, annoying but harmless. I grabbed my keys, slipped on my faded gray hoodie, and checked my wallet. Enough for snacks, barely. I wasn't planning to be gone longer than 10 minutes anyway. The nearest place was Dollar Tree on Layton Avenue, just 4 minutes from our street. A tiny store with flickering lights, uneven aisles, and workers who constantly looked 2 minutes from quitting. But cheap was cheap, and we were broke. I got into my old Honda Civic, the one that rattled like a shopping cart at 40 miles per hour, and pulled out of the driveway. Dollar Tree was quiet when I arrived, which made sense. It was around 8:15 p.m. on a Tuesday. There were only a few cars in the lot, including a beat-up blue minivan with one mismatched door. I noticed it, but didn't think too deeply about it. Inside, the air smelled like plastic, cleaning products, and cheap cardboard, a classic Dollar Tree cocktail. I grabbed a green basket from the stack near the door and made my way toward the snack aisle. As I was scanning for the specific chips Tegan wanted, a voice behind me said, "You looking for something specific?" I answered on instinct. "Nah, I'm good, thanks." When I turned, I realized the man wasn't an employee. Not even close. He looked to be around mid-40s, wearing a brown jacket, faded jeans, and a baseball cap pulled low. His beard was patchy, and his eyes, they were strange. Too alert, too focused. He gave me a weird smile before turning and walking toward the cleaning supplies. Whatever. People talk to strangers in stores sometimes. I found the snacks, tossed them into the basket, and moved on to get soda and candy. After that, I headed to the next aisle, the one with random seasonal stuff and party decorations. And then, he appeared again. He didn't speak at first. He just sort of hovered a few feet away, pretending to look at balloons but clearly watching me. I tried to ignore him, but after a few seconds, he finally spoke. "Got a whole party in that basket. Big family?" I forced a polite laugh. "Something like that." He stepped closer, not enough to touch me, but enough to make my heart knock against my ribs. "Where you stay around here?" I kept my voice neutral. "Near the college." A lie. I lived nowhere near the college. He nodded, eyes scanning the items in my basket again. "Your folks at home?" "Yep." I didn't elaborate. "Boyfriend?" "Nope." He smiled, too long, too slow. Instantly, my stomach tightened. I walked out of the aisle, pretending like I suddenly remembered something on the opposite side of the store. Unfortunately, he followed again, trailing behind like a shadow made of denim and cheap cologne. I grabbed 2 random items off the shelf just so I looked like I belonged there. "Need a ride home?" he asked casually, like we were old friends. "No, I drove." "Ah," he nodded again. "What do you drive?" "That one." I pointed vaguely toward the front door. Any car could be that one. He stopped for a moment, staring at me like he was calculating something. Then he said, "I can hang out while you finish up, in case you need anything." "I'm good, thanks." His eyes didn't move off me, not even a blink. A cold wave washed through me. I headed toward the checkout, walking faster this time. He followed. My hands were shaken by the time I approached the counter. The cashier working was a girl maybe in her 20s. Name tag said KIM, chewing gum like she was bored of existence. But when she glanced at the man walking right beside me, her eyebrows pulled together. "Everything all right?" she asked. "Yeah," I said quickly. "Just ready to check out." Kim's eyes flicked toward the man again. He pretended to browse gum but didn't step away. "You know," he said, "I can cover that for you." "Nope," I said immediately. I paid, grabbed my bag, and made a sharp turn away like a soldier escaping a battlefield. But something in my chest told me he was going to follow me out. So instead of heading to the exit, I walked toward the 2 public restrooms near the back. When he saw where I was going, he slowed his pace, confused. I slipped into the women's restroom, locked the door, and pressed my back against it. My breath came out shaky. I didn't even need to use the restroom. I just needed him gone. I sat on the closed toilet lid, scrolling my phone to look busy, but my ears stayed tuned for footsteps. Minutes passed. 10, 15. I finally cracked the door open, just enough to peek out. He wasn't there, but Kim was. Standing behind the counter, arms crossed, watching the back area like a guard dog. I walked toward her quickly. "Is he still here?" I whispered. Kim shook her head. He walked toward the freezer section. He was just standing around by the bathrooms for a while. I swallowed. He followed me around the whole time. He kept asking me weirdo questions. "I could tell," she said. "He gave me a really bad vibe." Just then, As if summoned, the man appeared again from behind an aisle, walking directly toward us. Kim straightened up like she was about to fight a bear. The man stopped right in front of me and said, "Ready to go?" My blood turned to ice. Kim didn't even hesitate. "Do you know her?" she demanded. The man didn't blink. "Yeah, she's with me." "No, she's not," Kim snapped. "And I know you're lying." He opened his mouth to protest, but she cut him off sharply. "Leave, now, or I'm calling the cops." The man stared at her for a long second, almost like he was weighing whether he could get away with grabbing me right there. Then finally, he turned and walked out. I didn't move until Kim said quietly, "Sweetheart, don't leave until I lock that door." She walked to the front, flipped the lock, and peered out the glass. "He's gone," she said. "At least I think he is." "Thank you," I whispered. "Seriously, thank you." She nodded. "You good to drive?" "I think so." But when I got to my car, I checked every seat twice before getting inside. Only when I turned onto Layton Avenue did I finally let out the breath I'd been holding hostage in my lungs. I never saw the man again, but I also never walked into that Dollar Tree without feeling my heartbeat in my ears. Some experiences cling to you like shadows, even after the lights come on. I never thought something as ordinary as a quick Dollar Tree run would stick with me for years, but life has a way of turning the most boring nights into memories you can't shake even if you try. Before I get into what happened, I should explain a little about who I was back then. I was 16, young enough to be naive, old enough to pretend I wasn't. At that time, I lived with my mom, my younger cousin who practically grew up like my brother, and my grandmother. Money was always tight in our house. My mom worked double shifts at a nursing home, and my grandma mostly raised us. Dollar Tree trips were basically mini events. Whenever my grandma had coupons or a little extra cash, she'd say something like, "Go on, grab a couple things you want. Don't pick anything dumb, and don't wander too far." She said it so often it might as well have been stitched on a pillow. That particular evening, the air was cold, mid-December in a small town near Columbus, Ohio. The sky had that early evening gray that makes every parking lot look like the world's been drained of color. My grandma, who everyone called Gigi, wanted to grab gift bags and wrapping paper for last-minute holiday stuff. I just wanted a break from the house. The Dollar Tree on Springmont Road looked the same way it always did. Fluorescent lights humming like they were tired, windows smudged, carts with wobbly wheels. But I always liked going in. It had this weird, comforting smell, cheap plastic mixed with cinnamon-scented candles and dust. Something about it felt familiar. The moment we stepped inside, Gigi said, "I know you're gonna ask, so just go. Pick out 5 things. Only 5. Don't start no debate with me." I laughed. "I wasn't gonna debate you, G's." She raised an eyebrow. "Uh-huh. Sure." Then she grabbed a cart and went toward the seasonal aisle, leaving me to wander. I headed straight for the pet aisle first, trying to find something for my cat, Snowball. She was the only creature in the house who didn't judge me for existing. As I dug through the cheap stuffed toys, flattening down the crinkly plastic bags, I felt something. You know that instinct? That subtle, uncomfortable awareness that you're not alone? I turned my head slightly, pretending to adjust my hair, and that's when I saw him. A guy. Maybe 27, maybe 30. Hard to tell. Messy brown hair, a small scar on his jaw, wearing a beat-up gray hoodie with sleeves pushed to his elbows. He stood at the end of the aisle, not close, but definitely watching me. When my eyes met his, he jerked his hand toward a shelf and pretended he was checking price labels. Normal people glance away. He didn't. He lingered. I looked back down at the toys, my heart starting to thump, but my face pretending everything was fine. "Don't be weird," I whispered to myself. "He's probably just shopping. Chill." I grabbed a little purple mouse toy with long string arms, Snowball like those. then moved to the next aisle, the snack aisle. I slowed down, not because I wanted chips, but because I wanted to check something. I walked all the way down to the far end and grabbed a bag of pretzels I wasn't even planning to buy. When I turned around, the man was there again. Same distance, same pretending to shop thing, same stare he tried to hide but didn't hide well enough. I felt a tight, warm pressure in my chest, part fear, part disbelief. "Seriously?" I muttered. Trying to act normal, I stepped aside to let an older woman pass. She gave me a quick, polite smile, the kind strangers give teenagers who look like they might be lost. The man shifted when someone else came down the aisle. He kept a little more distance but didn't leave. I ducked into the craft aisle next. Ribbons, glue sticks, glitter. All that stuff that looks fun until you remember you're terrible at anything artistic. I picked up a roll of gold ribbon just to look like I had a purpose, but really, my goal was one thing. Is he actually following me, or am I being paranoid? I walked slowly, pretending I was reading labels on random items. When I reached the end of the aisle, I turned. He wasn't there. My stomach dropped, not with relief, but with that suspicious silence feeling, like the calm before something bad. "Okay, it's fine," I whispered. "He's gone. You're overthinking." I walked toward the front of the store, planning to find Gigi. But right before I reached the registers, something made me freeze. Out of the reflection in the big front window, I saw him, standing behind the tall stack of Christmas tissue paper packs. Just far enough so employees might not see him. Just close enough that he was still tracking me. He wasn't pretending anymore. He was watching. My throat dried up. I tried to swallow but felt nothing. That's when the instinct turned from discomfort to danger. I opened my mouth a little, trying to speak, but all that came out was a shaky breath. "Go, just go find Gigi." I turned into the hygiene section. Deodorants, lotions, makeup. A teenage girl here should look normal, and this area was usually busy. But today, nothing. Only empty aisles humming under the bright lights. A minute later, footsteps, slow, dragging, deliberate. I didn't turn around, but I knew. I could feel him there. I grabbed a random bottle of body wash off the shelf because my hands needed something to do. He walked past me, but only a few steps, then stopped with his back toward me like he was pretending to read the label on a box of toothpaste. I could hear his breathing, quiet, but there, too close. Then his voice, low, barely above a whisper. "You here with anyone?" My heart slammed so hard I nearly dropped the bottle. I forced my voice steady. "Yeah, my aunt." He didn't turn around, but I saw a tiny smirk pull at the side of his mouth. "Didn't look like it," he said. I clenched my jaw. "She's in the next aisle," he chuckled, a small dry sound like someone amused for the wrong reason. "Sure," I stepped back. "I'm serious." He finally turned slowly, like I wasn't worth rushing for. His eyes were sharp and cold in a way that people's eyes aren't supposed to be. "You're jumpy," he said. "Didn't mean to freak you out." My voice cracked. "You're following me." He raised his hand slightly. "It's a store. Everyone's walking around. Relax." I hated how my hands started shaking. I hid them behind the sleeves of my hoodie. "I'm gonna go," I said. He nodded like he expected that. "Yeah, go ahead." But the way he said it, too smooth, too calm, made every instinct scream that I needed to get to Gigi right now. I walked fast toward the seasonal aisle where she'd been earlier. Halfway there, I heard him again, a single word. "Wait." My body froze even though my brain screamed, "Run." I turned just enough to see him take a step forward. "You dropped something," he said, holding out the purple mouse toy I'd picked for my cat. I hadn't dropped it. It had been in my hand 10 minutes ago. He'd grabbed it when I wasn't looking. "No thanks," I said quickly. "I'm good." "Come on," he said, smiling like he was doing me a favor. "Take it." The air suddenly felt hot and suffocating. I backed away. "No, I'm fine." He took another step. You sure? That was it. Panic won. I spun and walked fast, not running but close. My breaths came quick and uneven. I turned corner after corner, practically speed walking like a kid in trouble. Finally, I spotted Gigi near the wrapping paper. "There you are," she said, looking up at me. "What's that face? You look like you seen a ghost." My voice cracked again. "We need to go." Her expression changed immediately. She never ignored that tone. "What happened?" I swallowed hard. "There's this guy. He keeps following me. He talked to me. Before I could finish, Gigi's eyes moved past me, narrowing. "Is that him?" I didn't even want to turn, but I did. He stood half an aisle away. No pretending this time. Just staring at us. Gigi wasn't a big woman, but she had that energy that made grown men rethink their choices. She squared her shoulders. "Can I help you with something?" The man blinked, then looked at me, then back at her. His tongue pressed against the inside of his cheek, like he was deciding something. Finally he muttered, just looking around. Gigi stepped forward, voice sharp and stiff. "Not around my granddaughter, you're not." He smirked again, that same weird, too confident smirk, then turned and walked away like nothing happened. But he didn't leave the store. He circled, he lingered, he kept glancing. Gigi whispered, "Stay right next to me. Don't leave my side." We walked straight to the register. The cashier, a tired teenage girl, greeted us with a bored, "Hey, how y'all doing tonight?" But even she seemed to notice the tension. Gigi leaned in and said quietly, "There's a man in here following my granddaughter. Just a heads up." The cashier's eyes widened. "Seriously? Should I call the manager?" "Please," Gigi said. While she paged him, I looked behind me. The man was standing near the candle aisle, watching. But when he saw the manager walking out, he turned slowly and headed toward the exit, without buying anything, without looking back, just leaving. The automatic doors slid open with a hollow rush of air, and then he was gone into the dark parking lot. The manager took our descriptions and walked us out. He kept looking around the parking lot on high alert. Gigi unlocked the car, and I got in so fast I slammed the door. When she got in, she grabbed my hand. "I'm sorry you went through that," she said softly, "but you did the right thing coming to me." I finally let out the breath I'd been holding. My voice was still shaky. I don't know. I just felt like he was waiting for the right moment. She squeezed my hand. "You listen to that feeling, always. That feeling keeps you alive." As we drove off, I kept checking the mirrors, half expecting his car to appear behind us. But he never showed again. Nothing official happened. No police reports, no confrontation, no proof. Just a man who watched a minor a little too closely in a cheap Dollar Tree on a cold December night. But sometimes the things that don't happen are the scariest parts of all. I never thought a quick stop at Dollar Tree would change the way I shop forever. I wasn't the type of person who scared easily. At least, that's what I used to tell myself. Back then, I'd just moved into a cheap little duplex on the edge of Ashford, Missouri. Work wasn't paying much, and Dollar Tree had kind of become my lifeline. Paper towels, dish soap, snacks, candles, everything I couldn't afford anywhere else. My co-workers at the auto shop teased me about it sometimes. "Yo, Janelle, you practically live at Dollar Tree," my friend Tori would joke. "Yeah, 'cause I'm broke," I'd fire back. And it was true. So after a long late shift one Thursday night, I stopped by the Dollar Tree near my job. It was one of those isolated ones, small parking lot, giant flickering green sign, barely any cars. The type of place that looks harmless until you're actually inside. I remember being exhausted. My boots hurt. My hair smelled like engine oil. All I wanted was some cleaning wipes and a cheap little air freshener for my car. I wish I had just gone home. Inside, the store was quieter than usual. No music, just the hum of those old fluorescent lights. I grabbed a handbasket and started down the home aisle. There was only one employee working, a short guy with a name tag that said LEO. He looked maybe 19, 20 tops. He gave me a tired half smile. "Hey, how you doing?" he said. "Long day," I sighed, "just grabbing a few things." "Same here," he laughed nervously. "We close in about 20, just a heads up." "Cool, I'll be quick." If only it had been that simple. I was studying the cheap air fresheners when I heard something. A low sound, almost like someone whispering into a fan. Fast, shaky, wrong. When I peeked around the corner, I saw him. A man standing perfectly still in the middle of the next aisle. Tall, hood pulled over his head, clothes filthy, like he'd been sleeping in mud, jeans torn, hands twitching at his sides. He was facing the shelf, muttering something I couldn't make out. I tried to ignore him. People talk to themselves, whatever. I walked past him to grab dish soap. That's when I smelled him. It hit me like a wall. Rot, sweat, trash, something sour underneath. It was so strong I instantly gagged. Holy sh! I covered my mouth, turning away. He didn't look at me. Not fully. Just a tiny twitch of his head, like he felt me there. I walked off fast, trying to shake it off. "Just one weird dude," I whispered to myself. "Get your stuff and bounce." But the store suddenly felt way too quiet. I moved into the snack aisle, grabbing chips for work the next day. That's when I heard it again. The muttering turned into humming. But it wasn't a song. It wasn't even close to music. It was like he was trying to copy the overhead speaker's humming sound. But the store didn't even have music playing that night. Every second, his humming got louder. I peeked over the end of the aisle. He was dancing now. Weird, jerky moves, arms pulling up, feet shifting too fast, head bobbing like a puppet with broken strings. "Okay, nope," I whispered. I turned around, hoping he'd stay in his aisle. He didn't. His humming grew louder behind me, closer. I walked faster, pretending I didn't notice. My heart was already thudding because I could feel the tension from him, something unstable, unpredictable, something that told me not to mess around. I looped into a different aisle, hoping he'd lose interest. That's when I heard someone else shout. A middle-aged guy, maybe 45, wearing a blue jacket, walked past me holding a pack of paper plates. He saw the man behind me and flinched. "Hey dude, give me some space," the man in the jacket snapped. And just like that, everything changed. The hooded man swung toward him. Wide eyes, pupils huge, breathing sharp and animal-like. He leaned right up into the man's shoulder and screeched a long, distorted sound. Not a yell, not a word. A noise no human should make. "What the hell is your problem? Back up, man!" the guy shouted, stumbling away. The hooded man threw his head back and started pounding his chest, hard, like some deranged animal. "Hey," the other customer barked. "Back off." But the man lunged at him. The whole store exploded into chaos. The middle-aged guy dropped his plates and ran. The hooded man charged after him, knocking displays down, kicking baskets aside, screaming in guttural bursts that made my blood freeze. Leo, the young cashier, yelled from the front, "Hey, sir, sir, you can't do that." But the man didn't even look at him. He was focused, predatory, like he was locked onto prey. The two of them tore past my aisle, and for a split second, the hooded man made eye contact with me. I swear everything inside me stopped. His head tilted slow, unnatural, and he lifted one shaking hand and pointed at me. I couldn't breathe. He let out a sound, low, vibrating, inhuman. I bolted, running for my life. My boot slammed on the tile floor as I sprinted down the candle aisle. I heard something clang behind me. He'd thrown something. A box hit the floor. Something shattered. "Ma'am," Leo yelled. Go outside. I'm calling the cops." I saw him scrambling for the phone behind the counter, hands shaking. But the hooded man was fast. Too fast. I turned around a shelf corner and nearly ran into Leo again, who had come forward. "What the?" he gasped as he saw the man barreling toward us. "Move!" I screamed. The hooded man lunged, arms out, fingers curled like claws. Leo grabbed a mop bucket and shoved it forward, trying to block him. But the man swatted it aside like nothing. His hand reached out, grazing the sleeve of my jacket. I yanked myself away and slipped on the floor, catching myself on a shelf. "Leo, run!" I shouted. Leo backed up, terror on his face. Get out, get out, get out!" he yelled. We both sprinted to the front. The kick that saved us as we reached the front. Another employee, a taller man in his 30s with a badge that said Manager Rylan, burst out from the back room. "What the hell is going on?" Rylan shouted. Before I could explain, the hooded man came flying down the aisle toward us. Rylan's eyes went wide. "Sir, hey, stop!" he barked. But the man didn't slow down. He lunged straight at me. Rylan reacted out of pure survival. He stepped in front of me and delivered a clean, hard kick to the man's chest. The hooded man dropped like a sandbag, smacked the tile, and went still. "Go!" Rylan yelled. "Outside, now!" Leo grabbed my arm. Come on, let's go!" We all ran out the doors. Rylan slammed them shut behind us and locked them. The police arrived within a minute. Sirens, red and blue lights slicing through the dark parking lot. 4 squad cars screeched in. The middle-aged guy who'd been chased was outside too, panting hard. He must have escaped through the emergency exit. He pointed toward the store, breathless. He's still inside. He's tearing the place apart. The officers rushed in with flashlights drawn. Even from outside, we heard crashing, shouting, someone yelling, "Stop resisting!" Something breaking. It felt endless. Finally, 6 officers dragged the hooded man outside. He was kicking, growling, spitting. They had a spit hood on him, cuffs, restraints on his legs. And still, he fought. One officer muttered, "Dude's high out of his damn mind." They shoved him into the back of a patrol car. The car rocked from how violently he was thrashing. They questioned all of us, took statements, got the security footage. The manager pulled me aside. "You okay?" Rylan asked gently. I nodded, even though I wasn't. "You saved me back there," I whispered. He shook his head. "You shouldn't have needed saving." Aftermath Dollar Tree. Closed for several days. The aisles were destroyed, stuff everywhere, employees traumatized. The police later confirmed the man had been heavily drugged and violent in custody. He'd flooded the store bathroom, tried to fight the cops inside, even tried biting one. He went straight to county jail. I never went back to that Dollar Tree again. Even now, years later, I still tense up whenever someone hums behind me in a store. I still glance down every aisle before turning into it. Because sometimes, you don't realize how quickly a normal day can collapse into absolute hell. And once you've seen that switch happen in a stranger's eyes, you never forget it. I always thought Dollar Tree runs were the safest kind of errands. Quick, cheap, boring, nothing dramatic. But this happened last fall. And every time I drive past the store on Elmwood Avenue, my stomach knots up again, like it remembers something my brain is still trying to forget. Before I get into it, I should tell you a bit about myself so you understand why that night hit me the way it did. My name is Rylan, and at the time all this went down, I'd just moved back to my hometown in northern Indiana after my mom passed. I was staying in a small rental house behind a strip of older stores, a hair salon, a donut shop, a vape store, and a Dollar Tree that had been there since the early 2000s. Nothing special, but it was close, And when you're trying to rebuild your life paycheck by paycheck, Dollar Tree feels like a lifesaver. I worked nights at a call center, usually getting off around 9 p.m. I'd come home drained, hungry, and honestly too tired to cook. That night I needed paper towels, some frozen dinners, and maybe a cheap charger because mine had been glitching like crazy. It wasn't supposed to be a big outing, just a 15-minute trip. But life doesn't always care about supposed to. It was around 9:30 p.m. when I pulled into the shared parking lot. The whole plaza was dead quiet. The donut shop had its lights off. The salon chairs were flipped upside down. The vape shop had that weird blue glow, but no one inside. The Dollar Tree, though, still had that bright green glow through the windows, like it was the last living thing in a dying strip mall. Only 3 cars were parked nearby. One white sedan near the dumpster, one dark SUV with no plates in the front, and another old red pickup that looked abandoned. I didn't think much of it. Small towns always have random cars sitting around. When I walked in, the automatic doors dragged open slower than usual and let out a gust of colder than normal air. The store was empty. Not like quiet empty. I mean absolutely nobody. No customers. No cashier in sight. Just the humming of the old fluorescent lights and the faint beep of something in the back room. "Hello?" I said. No answer. I figured maybe the cashier was stocking shelves. Small-town Dollar Trees always had employees doing 5 jobs at once. I grabbed a basket and made my way to the cleaning aisle. The fluorescent lights flickered in that annoying way like they were trying to blink Morse code. The whole place smelled like plastic, dust, and something faintly burnt, like old wiring. As I turned into the second aisle, I noticed movement out of the corner of my eye. At first I thought it was an employee, but it wasn't. A man, tall, pale, dressed in an oversized gray hoodie and washed-out jeans, was standing halfway hidden behind the end cap. He wasn't shopping, he wasn't moving, he was just watching me. Straight face, no blinking, no expression. I froze, then tried to play it cool. "Oh, sorry, man. Didn't see you there." My voice cracked a little. He didn't respond. Not a nod, not a blink, nothing. Just that stare. Okay, weird, but whatever. People are strange, especially at night. I moved to the snacks aisle to grab something cheap to heat up later, hoping he'd go away. I wasn't even 2 steps in when I felt it, that prickling on the back of your neck that screams you're not alone. I turned. There he was again. Same posture, same blank expression, same silent stare. "Dude, can I help you with something?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. No answer. I stepped back, heart thumping a little harder. "Seriously, can you not stare at me like that? It's weird." He tilted his head just an inch, not to the side, but forward, like he was studying me. My stomach flipped. Something was wrong with this guy. I tried to brush it off and walked all the way to the freezer section at the back. As I grabbed a microwave meal, the reflection in the freezer door caught a shape at the end of the aisle. I turned slowly. He was there again, aisle after aisle, step for step, always staring, always silent. "Bro, stop following me. For real," I said louder. Silence. Then, a smile, but not a normal smile. A slow, stretched, unnatural one, like he'd never used those muscles before. I felt my breath catch. I dropped the frozen dinner back in the cooler and backed away. "Okay, I'm done. I'm out. Screw this," I muttered and walked fast toward the front. As I approached the register, the cashier, a teenage girl with pink braids, suddenly walked out from the stockroom. "Oh, hey, sorry, I was scanning returns in the back," she said cheerfully. "Need me to ring you up?" Yeah, please," I said quickly, glancing back. The man was gone, nowhere in sight. I didn't even hear him move. I dumped the items on the counter, hands shaking just a little. The cashier looked up. "You good? You look like you've seen a ghost. There's a dude in here. Tall gray hoodie, been following me around. She frowned. We're supposed to be empty. I just locked the doors 10 minutes ago. My heart pounded harder. He was definitely in here. She walked around the counter and scanned the aisles. Nobody. Weird, she whispered. If he's messing around, I'll call security. Please do, I muttered. She rang me up, bagged my items, and handed me the receipt. I stepped outside into the cold night air, finally letting out the breath I didn't know I was holding. But the relief didn't last, not even for 5 seconds. Because when I opened my car door and sat down, I glanced into the rearview mirror, and my blood turned to ice. He was right behind my car, standing there, facing me, motionless. Same stare, same blank expression, same impossible smile. Jesus Christ, I whispered, hands shaking. I hit the lock button on my door. Click. He didn't move, didn't blink, didn't breathe. I stared at him through the mirror for what felt like forever. 30 seconds, a minute, 5. I lost track. He didn't move an inch. Okay, dude, move, I muttered, tapping the horn lightly. He didn't flinch. I honked louder, one long, nervous blast. The man took one slow step forward, then another, then another. My heart slammed against my ribs. No, 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 I whispered. Suddenly, he bolted, not away, toward my driver's door. I shoved the gear into reverse and slammed the gas. My tires screeched as I shot backward. The man's hand smacked the window near my face, a dull, heavy thud that rattled through me. And I saw his eyes inches from mine. Wide, empty, like he wasn't looking at me, like he was looking into me. I swung the steering wheel, barely missing the red pickup as I tore out of the lot and onto the road. I didn't look back, not once. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the wheel. I made it home in under 2 minutes, locked every door, and sat on the floor trying to breathe. I didn't sleep that night, and the next morning, I went back to Dollar Tree with the store manager to report what happened. The cashier had already told him about the tall man in the hoodie. But the security cameras? They didn't show anyone following me. Not in the aisles, not in the freezer reflection, not behind my car. They showed only me, alone, talking to empty air. The manager tried to gently explain maybe I was tired, stressed from life changes, grief, late nights. But I know what I saw, what I felt, what hit my window, and the tiny smear of dirt still on the glass. That wasn't mine. The Dollar Tree on Elmwood changed its hours a week later. They close at 7 p.m. now, and I haven't stepped foot inside since.